G'day, welcome to 5 Minutes at 5 with Gavin. Well, as a church, we've been walking our way through the Gospel of Mark. The Gospel of Mark was written maybe 50 years, 40 years, somewhere around that, maybe even 70 years after Jesus had died. And Mark was wanting to communicate to a group of Christians, non-Jewish Christians, to remind them of who Jesus is and what that means for us as Christ followers. Well, in this chaotic world, with so many questions being asked about what it means to be human, what it means to engage this world. And then, let's be honest, there's a lot of chaos and deep questions, challenging questions about the way we see the world. I think it's relevant to look at who Mark is, who Jesus is, and what it means to be Christ followers. Well, in the section that we're up to now, the story is transitioning. So it's at the end of Mark chapter 8, and then we go through to chapter 10. And we have these bookends of healings. So Jesus heals two people at either end. And the first healing is a story where a man has vision, but not full vision. And then he has partial vision. And then he is healed fully to have full vision. And it's a little bit like Peter. Peter says, Jesus, you're the Messiah, you're the Messiah. And yet he doesn't quite get what it means to be the Messiah that Jesus is. Because Jesus goes on to tell him that he's going to be the suffering servant, that he's going to die on the cross, that for him to be Messiah means to sacrifice. And Peter doesn't like that. And there's this unfolding of who Jesus is. Jesus, Messiah, does not just mean a military revolution, but it's this humble servanthood, this sacrifice that he makes for not just you and me, but the whole world. I think that's really important. And then as that happens, then Jesus goes up to the mountain. And he goes up to the mountain and he meets with Moses and Elijah, and God is there, and Jesus is dazzling in white. We have these old leaders who represented being godly, that represented a prophet, a messenger of God. And it's announcing that this Jesus, although he's suffering, there is glory involved, that he's going to shine bright in and through this death that he's going to do. This is going to bring new life, going from the wilderness into the promised land. This is the act that is happening in this transfiguration. It also reminds us of Moses passing down the law to the people of God. And then after this, Jesus teaches disciples what it means to be a Christ follower. You know what it means? It means to be humble and a servant, just like Jesus was. To follow in his footsteps. That in fact, each one of us has our own Jerusalem. That each one of us should be joining in unity to love, to empower, to seek justice and mercy for those around us. Now, each one of us as Christ followers play that out differently. Yes, but that's at its core what we're meant to be doing, following in the footsteps of our Master, Jesus, seeking hope and life. What's interesting in the next bit of the story is that we see this person who is demon-possessed restored. And in the Gospel of Mark, when you see demon possession, that represents this old way, this fallenness of the world, the sin that we see all around us, the drama that we see, the chaos that we see around us. And Jesus comes in and restores a person to the way he or she was supposed to be. He brings new life. And yet we don't always have the vision to see what God is doing. It's a challenge, isn't it? Jesus says to follow in his footsteps. And yet, just like John, just like Peter, I want to be the greatest. I don't want to be a humble servant sometimes. I want the merit certificate. I want the badge. And I'm sure you do too. And yet we're called to be humble, called to serve, called to be unified as the believers, to love this world, to bring about his kingdom here on earth as it is in heaven. Oh, and it's hard because we don't get to experience it in all its fullness. It comes gradually. It moves gradually and grows gradually. But one day, One day we have this hope that all will be restored, both through the power of Jesus' death and resurrection, but also inviting us into the journey. Jesus is a Messiah. He's a suffering Messiah, but he has conquered it. He has conquered the grave, he has conquered death, and there is a hope for the future, and there's a hope for now. Well, I hope that's helpful, and I hope that you can reflect on this as you move forward into the week, into this chaotic world we live in. Will go well, and I'll see you soon. Bye.